Welcome to my scientifically informed insider look at mental health topics. If you find this video to be interesting or helpful, please like it and subscribe to my channel. Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question asks if I can analyze the mental health and personality factors at work in the situation we see where Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have stepped back from the royal family. Another question here, is Meghan Markle or Prince Harry narcissistic? So just a reminder that the people I'm talking about in this video are real people, so I'm not diagnosing anybody, only speculating based on what could be happening in a situation like this. So first I'll talk about the background, and I'm going to focus more on Meghan Markle here because a lot of the questions are specifically about her, and then I'll take a look at the construct of narcissism and discuss how it could relate to a situation like this. So Meghan Markle was born in 1981 in California. She is biracial. Her father is Caucasian and her mother is African American. She went to private school and she graduated from college with a bachelor's degree. We see that she worked as an actress in a number of small parts until 2011, where she landed a steady role in the series Suits. This lasted until 2017. She married in 2011 and was divorced in 2013. She dated various people after that. We see she had a lifestyle website for some time. It focused a lot on fashion. So Meghan Markle was not poor by any means, but she was also not a super wealthy, famous actress either. She was doing okay. In 2016, she starts dating Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, the grandson of Queen Elizabeth II. After they dated a while, she became a British citizen and married Prince Harry in 2018. So at this point, she was the Duchess of Sussex. She closed all of her social media accounts and dedicated herself to the life of a royal. Now we move to January 2020. We see that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announced that they're stepping back from their duties as royals. This became official on March 31. It's been referred to in the media as Megxit, a play on the word Brexit. We see that Harry assumed responsibility for the decision. He said he wanted peace, and he made the decision because of the behavior of the press. Under this separation deal, they will not accept any taxpayer money, they will not be working members of the royal family, and they move to North America, right? So we see a number of changes as they step back, as they put it, from their royal duties. Now this takes me to the topic of narcissism. So many people blame Meghan Markle for her husband's division from the royal family. There's a lot of talk that she may be narcissistic. So I'll start by offering some clarity on the construct of narcissism. So if somebody is a narcissist, that simply means they have certain tendencies or traits that we align with this construct. For example, arrogance, self-centeredness, a sense of entitlement, lacking empathy, and being manipulative. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have a mental illness, like narcissistic personality disorder. Just like somebody can be psychopathic without having antisocial personality disorder, someone can be narcissistic and not have narcissistic personality disorder. As a matter of fact, the overwhelming majority of people who are narcissistic do not meet the criteria for that disorder. If somebody has narcissistic personality disorder, that would be considered a manifestation of clinical narcissism. Most people who are narcissistic have what is referred to as subclinical narcissism. So their symptoms are below the threshold where it would likely necessitate treatment. So in talking about somebody like Meghan Markle, I can't comment on the presence or absence of a disorder. I can only align her behaviors with certain characteristics. It's important to keep in mind that her behavior could all be an act. She could maintain a persona, which isn't unusual for somebody who is an actress. Only a mental health professional who is treating her could know for sure if she is narcissistic or not, or if she did or did not have any mental disorder. So with that in mind, let's analyze some of Meghan Markle's behavior that has been associated with narcissism. I'll look at the arguments both for and against narcissism in a case like this. So the first item here, she married Prince Harry. So Meghan Markle gives up her life, which of course wasn't bad, but she had a lower status with her life than she did after marrying Prince Harry. So she chased a high-profile life, and now she has become a true celebrity. She abandoned her family, friends, her way of life. Some may view this as callous and self-centered. Now that's an interesting argument, but I think a lot of people in her situation would have done the same thing. Becoming a royal is a rare opportunity. For many, it would be a dream come true, and of course, it does involve some sacrifice. She may have dropped her acting career and a number of her relationships and changed a lot in her life because she viewed that as necessary for her new career as a royal. The next point here is she didn't seem to fit in with the royal family and their reserved lifestyle. So again, kind of starting with an argument toward narcissism, we see that she argued with the royals. She was not being neutral in the area of politics, as is the custom with the royal family. She argued with the staff. They described her as difficult and a nightmare, and she seemed to have difficulty following the rules, like she was rebelling against their system. So this aligns with low agreeableness, so being disagreeable, a sense of entitlement, dominance, overconfidence, high self-esteem, and a sense of superiority. On the other hand, arguing against narcissism, she could simply be strong-willed and opinionated. She could have been surprised by that lifestyle. Perhaps she was driven by her emotions to make that commitment to get married and didn't think the decision through about the lifestyle that came with that marriage. The next point, it seems like she likes attention and requires admiration. She made some statements that people were not paying attention to her when she was not supposed to be the focus of what was going on. She tends to work harder to be the center of attention as opposed to other royals, or at least many of them. She seems to be the one that tends to make a scene, again, of that group. So she kind of stands out for the wrong reason. She also tries to make a lot of fashion statements, but that seems pretty common for that group. Arguing against narcissism, well, she's an actress, so wanting to be the center of attention can actually help an actress to be more successful. If somebody didn't want attention, it's likely they wouldn't enter into that line of work. To some extent, it's easy to look at the lifestyle of royalty and believe that she should be attention-seeking, like it's part of what they do. It's hard for somebody to learn the humility part of that particular life. So maybe that would have come with time. The next point, she seems to be hypersensitive to criticism. This seems to be a real theme with Meghan Markle. We see all these disputes with the press about their coverage of her. She claims that she has not been treated fairly. We see that the courts have disagreed. Now, this could indicate that she's simply unable to tolerate criticism. She's not as tough as the other royals in this way. They routinely deal with aggressive press coverage and largely seem to be okay with it. Another possibility, though, would be that she has been mistreated by the press, so they are really too hard on her, and her reaction is normative. The next point here is a statement made by Prince Harry. It's a simple and short statement. He said, "What Meghan wants, Meghan gets." Admittedly, this doesn't look too good. It does make her look entitled and dominant. But again, one could argue that she's simply being assertive, right? So I can see the argument here, again, in both directions. The next point, I've seen a lot of talk about how she puts her hand on Harry's back, clenches his hands, and stares at him when they're being interviewed. Could this be dominance? I suppose, but it could also just be her mannerisms. There's so much scrutiny on somebody like Meghan Markle that every little thing she does will seem to fit a trait like narcissism, right? Because everything she does is going to be reported. It's going to be noticed and discussed. So she doesn't really have any room there to have unusual mannerisms. Again, they're always going to be connected to something negative. So the staring and what she does with her hands, I think that could be actually quite normal, right? Again, the level of scrutiny could be a factor with that. The next point is the decision to separate from the royal family. Many people believe that this decision was driven by Meghan Markle. She couldn't handle the responsibility. The lifestyle of a royal wasn't good enough for her. She wanted more out of life than to be famous. She wanted to be famous and unconstrained by anyone else's rules. Another possibility here is that both Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are narcissistic. We see in the statement they released about an upcoming book, they portray themselves as confident, influential, and forward-thinking. It's important to keep in mind that we don't actually know who wrote that statement. It could have been Harry, Meghan, or both of them. Another possibility is that she set Harry free. He actually said it was his decision, after all. And he had to make that decision because, again, the press was harassing them. So it could be that Meghan gave him the courage that he needed, made him realize that he wasn't happy in his life as a royal. Or it could have been his plan all along. His mother was killed in a car accident that occurred while the press was chasing the car that she was in. It's actually quite understandable that he wanted a life away from the tabloids. So with all this in mind, it really is hard to know what's going on here. Is this a case of a narcissistic person or a couple who are entitled, superior, and self-obsessed? Or is it a case of a person or a couple who are fearless, assertive, and who wanted to regain their freedom? If one were to assume that Meghan was narcissistic, that doesn't mean that everything she does is destructive. A lot of people are narcissistic, and for some occupations, as I mentioned, a little narcissism almost seems necessary. Now, the last construct I'll cover here is communal narcissism, which is a type of narcissism that has been brought up in reference to the situation. Some of the most generous people in the world have been thought of as having communal narcissism. This is a type of narcissism where a person is motivated by approval. They attract attention by being more altruistic than anyone else. We see a lot of competitiveness and even aggression as they try to be pro-social. One thing I find interesting about communal narcissism is it tends to be characterized by thinking, statements, or ideologies that contain both pro-social and narcissistic elements. For example, a statement that a communal narcissist might make: if people would just understand that I know best, I can end all the suffering in the world. Another statement: I am a gift to the world, but people need to appreciate my superiority in order for me to help them. So the question here would be, are these types of thinking consistent with the situation? Now, I don't know what's happening here, if this really is an example of communal narcissism, but it's just an interesting concept to consider when looking at a situation like this. I know whenever I talk about controversial topics, there will be a variety of opinions. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be interesting. Thanks for watching.